Before we
Subscribe to my
begin,
channel.
do me a quick favor, like this video, subscribe to the Elegant Standard, and share it with that one friend who keeps saying, all men are intimidated by strong women, while turning every date into a 3-hour documentary about her ex. Now, let's talk. What if the reason some women struggle in relationships has absolutely nothing to do with beauty? There is nothing to do with age. There is nothing to do with finding the right man, and nothing to do with not being attractive enough, because here's a truth that most people don't want to hear. Many women unknowingly push good men away, not because they're bad people, not because they're unlovable, but because they've developed habits that quietly drain attraction without even realizing it. The scary part, most of these habits seem completely normal. In fact, some are even praised by friends who are just as confused as they are. Today, we're uncovering 10 relationship mistakes that can slowly turn men off, damage attraction, and make relationships harder than they need to be. And trust me, you want to stay until number 10, because it might be the biggest relationship killer on this entire list. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Making every conversation about problems. Look, life is hard. Bills exist, traffic exists, and somewhere right now, somebody is still trying to remember a password they created in 2017. Problems are part of life, but some people treat every conversation like a customer service complaint department. You ask how their day went. You get a 40-minute podcast episode, complete with sound effects, flashbacks, and 3 villains. A good man genuinely wants to support you. He wants to listen, he wants to help, but he doesn't want every conversation to feel like he's reporting for emotional overtime. Eventually, if every interaction feels heavy, stressful, and exhausting, he may begin associating your presence with pressure instead of peace. And while negativity can slowly drain attraction, the next mistake can make a man feel something even worse. Number 2. Constantly testing him. Now, let's talk about a mistake that has probably ended more promising relationships than bad breath and forgetting anniversaries combined. Constantly testing him. Ladies, attraction is not a university entrance exam. Yet some women behave like they're the head examiner of the Department of Emotional Intelligence. They create unnecessary jealousy. They flirt with other men just to see his reaction. They disappear for 2 days because a dating coach on the internet said, mystery creates attraction. They read a message, stare at it, put their phone down, walk around the house, make a sandwich, watch 2 episodes of a television show, and then reply 6 hours later with, sorry, I was busy. Busy doing what? Conducting a scientific experiment. The funny part is that these tests rarely reveal anything about the man. What they usually reveal is insecurity. Healthy, emotionally mature men are not looking for a relationship filled with puzzles, riddles, and surprise examinations. They're looking for connection. Imagine applying for a job where the interviewer keeps changing the questions, hiding information, and occasionally setting traps. At some point, you don't become more interested in the job. You live. The same thing happens in relationships. A confident man may play along once, maybe twice. Eventually, he starts asking himself a dangerous question. Why am I working this hard just to have a normal conversation? Real attraction grows through trust, through honesty, through consistency, not through emotional obstacle courses designed by someone who watches too many relationship videos at 2 o'clock in the morning. The strongest relationships aren't built on games. They're built on clarity. Because when 2 mature people genuinely like each other, neither person feels the need to constantly test the other. But some women take this even further and accidentally push away the very men they're trying to attract. Number 3. Seeking constant validation. Now, let's talk about a habit that quietly drains attraction faster than a phone battery running 27 apps at the same time. Constantly seeking validation. We've all met someone who asks questions that aren't really questions. Do you think I'm pretty? Do you still love me? Am I better than your ex? Would you still date me if I lost all my hair and started communicating exclusively through interpretive dance? At first, a man doesn't mind reassuring you. In fact, Most good men enjoy making the woman they care about feel appreciated, but when reassurance becomes a daily subscription service, things start to change. Because no matter how many compliments he gives, they're never enough. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. One compliment lasts 10 minutes. The next lasts 30. Then suddenly, he's working harder than a customer support representative trying to convince you that, yes, he still finds you attractive, despite having already said it 17 times this week. The truth is that confidence is attractive because it creates ease. A confident woman doesn't walk into a room wondering whether everyone approves of her. She walks in, comfortable with herself, and that's powerful. Neediness, on the other hand, creates pressure. It silently communicates, "My opinion of myself depends on your opinion of me." And that's a responsibility no healthy relationship can carry forever. A man's compliments should be a bonus, not the foundation holding your self-worth together. Because the most attractive women aren't the ones constantly asking for validation. They're the ones who appreciate compliments without needing them to survive. They know their value before anyone else confirms it. And ironically, that quiet confidence often attracts far more admiration than constant reassurance ever could. Unfortunately, many women confuse confidence with another behavior that actually drives attraction down. Number 4. Trying too hard to impress. Now, let's talk about a mistake that usually starts with good intentions but often ends in complete exhaustion. Trying too hard to impress. At the beginning of a relationship, everyone wants to make a good impression. That's normal. You want to look your best. You want to be interesting. You want the other person to like you. The problem starts when making a good impression turns into performing in a one-woman theatrical production. Suddenly, you're pretending to enjoy things you secretly dislike. He says he loves hiking. Now you're climbing mountains, despite the fact that walking from the parking lot to the shopping mall already feels like cardio. He mentions a complicated documentary about economics. You nod enthusiastically while understanding approximately 3% of what was said. Some women even try to become mysterious. Every answer sounds like a riddle. How was your day? Interesting. What happened? Many things. At this point, he's not dating a woman. He's interviewing a witness in a detective movie. Others try to appear wealthier, more sophisticated, or more glamorous than they really are. But here's the problem with pretending. Eventually, you get tired, because maintaining a fake personality is a full-time job with terrible benefits. The truth is, genuine connection doesn't happen when someone falls in love with the character you're playing. It happens when they get to know the real you. Authenticity creates comfort. Authenticity creates trust. Authenticity creates connection. Performance creates distance. While pretending may attract attention, it rarely creates lasting attraction. The most attractive women aren't trying desperately to impress everyone in the room. They're comfortable being themselves, and that confidence is far more captivating than any carefully rehearsed performance could ever be. Yet even authentic women often make the next mistake without realizing it. Number 5. Being overly critical. Now, let's talk about a mistake that can quietly turn a relationship into something that feels less like romance and more like an annual performance review. Being overly critical. You know the type. Nothing escapes their attention. Nothing. If he parks the car, there's a better way to park it. If he tells a story, there's a better way to tell it. If he folds a towel, somehow, he's violated international towel folding standards. At first, these corrections may seem harmless. After all, you're just trying to help, right? But when every conversation includes a correction, a criticism, or a reminder of what someone did wrong, something begins to happen. The relationship slowly becomes exhausting. Imagine spending time with someone who points out every mistake you make, every typo, every flaw, every tiny imperfection. Eventually, you stop feeling appreciated. You start feeling evaluated, like you're participating in a reality show where judges appear every 5 minutes with scorecards. Excellent effort, but unfortunately, your sandwich-making technique lacks elegance to points deducted. Nobody enjoys living like that. And here's the ironic part. Most people don't become better when they're constantly criticized. They become defensive, or distant, or both. Healthy relationships thrive when appreciation outweighs criticism. That doesn't mean ignoring problems. It simply means noticing what's right as often as you notice what's wrong. A man who feels respected will usually work harder, communicate better, and show up more consistently. But a man who constantly feels judged may eventually stop trying altogether. Respected isn't built by reminding people of every flaw they have. It's built by recognizing their strengths as well. The most attractive women aren't constantly searching for mistakes. They're able to appreciate, encourage, and uplift without turning every interaction into a correction session. And speaking of respect, the next mistake quietly destroys it. Number 6. Treating independence like a competition. Now, let's be clear about something. Strong women are attractive. Ambitious women are attractive. Independent women are attractive. Being capable, confident, and self-sufficient is something to be admired. The problem isn't independence. The problem starts when independence becomes a competitive sport. You know the phrases. I don't need anyone. I can do everything myself. I don't need a man. At first, these statements sound powerful. But imagine inviting someone to join your team while repeatedly reminding them that the team doesn't actually need them. Eventually they're going to wonder why they're there. Some women treat every offer of help like a wrestling match. He offers to carry something. No, I've got it. He offers assistance. No, I can do it myself. He tries to contribute. No, move aside. At this point, the poor man is standing there wondering if he's in a relationship or applying for a position that's already been filled. The funny thing is that healthy men aren't usually attracted to women because they're helpless. They're attracted to women because they're capable. But they also want to feel valued. They want to feel like their presence makes a positive difference. Relationships aren't about proving who needs the other person less. They're about building something together. Think about it. If two people spend their entire relationship competing over who is stronger, smarter, busier, or more independent, nobody wins. The relationship loses. A healthy relationship isn't a championship match. It's a partnership. It's two capable people choosing to support each other. Not because they can't survive alone, but because life becomes richer when they work together. True confidence says, I can do it myself. True wisdom says, but I don't always have to, and that's a very important distinction. However, some women unknowingly create an even bigger emotional barrier. Number 7. Refusing to be vulnerable. Now, let's talk about a mistake that often disguises itself as strength. Refusing to be vulnerable. Some women become so determined to protect themselves that they accidentally make themselves impossible to truly know. No matter what happens, they're fine. It's always fine. Everything is fine. A meteor could land in the backyard, and somehow, they're still saying, I'm good. They never express fears, never admit when they're hurt, never reveal their insecurities, never ask for support. It's as if they're competing for the world championship of emotional toughness. Now, don't misunderstand me. Being emotionally strong is a wonderful quality. Life requires resilience, but strength and vulnerability are not enemies. In fact, truly strong people are often the ones brave enough to be honest about what they're feeling. The problem with emotional walls is that they work exactly as designed. They keep pain out, but they also keep connection out. Imagine trying to build a close relationship with someone who never lets you inside. You ask how they're feeling. Fine. You ask what's bothering them. Nothing. You ask if something is wrong. Nope. Meanwhile, their facial expression suggests they're preparing for battle. At some point, a man begins to feel like he's dating a highly classified government project. He knows something is happening. He just has no access to the information. Real intimacy requires openness, not oversharing every thought that enters your mind, not turning every conversation into a therapy session, but allowing someone to see the real person behind the polished exterior. Because connection doesn't grow when people only share their strengths. It grows when they trust each other enough to share their humanity. The truth is that emotional walls may feel safe, but they can become lonely prisons, and many women don't realize they're building them. And then comes a mistake that often starts with good intentions. Number 8. Trying to control everything. Now, let's talk about a mistake that often looks like confidence on the surface, but is usually powered by something much deeper. Trying to control everything. The conversation, the plans, the decisions, the outcomes, sometimes even the weather, if it would cooperate. You know the type. They already have the entire evening planned before the other person has finished saying hello. The restaurant has been selected. The schedule has been created. The backup schedule has been created. And there's probably a spreadsheet somewhere. Now, being organized is not the problem. Being responsible is not the problem. The problem starts when control becomes a full-time occupation. Some women try to manage every detail of the relationship. They want to control what happens, when it happens, how it happens, and preferably why it happens. If life were a movie, they'd want the script, the director's notes, and the ending before the first scene begins. The funny thing is that control often comes from fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of uncertainty, fear of getting hurt, and that's understandable. Most people don't enjoy uncertainty. Unfortunately, relationships come with plenty of it. You can't control another person's thoughts. You can't control every outcome. You certainly can't build genuine connection while treating the relationship like a business project that requires constant supervision. Healthy relationships require trust. Trust that the other person can think for themselves. Trust that not every situation needs to be managed. Trust that life doesn't completely fall apart when things don't go according to plan. Because attraction grows in an environment of freedom, not control. The more someone feels controlled, the less they feel connected. Eventually, what began as protection starts feeling like pressure. The strongest women aren't those who control everything. They're the ones confident enough to let go of what cannot be controlled. Surprisingly, that often creates far stronger relationships. The next mistake is extremely common among intelligent women. Number 9. Making the relationship your entire life. Now, let's talk about a mistake that seems romantic in movies but often becomes a disaster in real life. Making the relationship your entire life. At first, everything feels exciting. You meet someone special. You enjoy spending time together. You think about them often. That's completely normal. The problem begins when a relationship stops being part of your life and starts becoming your entire personality. Suddenly, your friends haven't seen you in months. Your hobbies have mysteriously disappeared. The activities you once loved have been placed in a museum labeled things I used to enjoy before I started dating. Every conversation somehow circles back to him. Every plan revolves around him. Every mood depends on him. At this point, if he goes to the grocery store for 15 minutes, it feels like a long-distance relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. Wanting closeness is healthy. Wanting connection is healthy. But no single person should carry the responsibility of being your only source of happiness, entertainment, excitement, purpose, and emotional stability. That's not romance. That's a full-time job with impossible expectations. The truth is that healthy men are usually attracted to women who have their own lives. Women who have goals, interests, friendships, passions, a sense of identity that exists independently of the relationship. Why? Because purpose is attractive. A woman who has her own world brings energy into a relationship. A woman who abandons her entire world often begins expecting the relationship to provide everything she gave up. And that's a burden no relationship can sustain forever. The healthiest relationships are not made up of two incomplete people searching for completion. They're made up of two whole people choosing to share their lives together. Because love should add to your life, not replace it. And now we've reached the mistake that quietly destroys attraction more than almost anything else. Number 10. Losing your feminine peace. And finally, we've arrived at the mistake that quietly destroys attraction more than almost anything else. Losing your feminine peace. Now, before anyone misunderstands this, let's be clear. This isn't about being silent. It's not about agreeing with everything. It's not about pretending you never get upset. That's not peace. That's customer service. Real feminine peace is something much deeper. It's the ability to bring calm, stability, and emotional balance into a relationship. Unfortunately, some women become a source of constant chaos. Every conversation becomes an argument. Every disagreement becomes a courtroom trial. Every minor issue becomes a breaking news event. You forgot to reply for 20 minutes. Apparently, the relationship is now under federal investigation. Some people create so much tension that spending 5 minutes with them feels like preparing for a final exam nobody studied for. And here's the interesting part. Most healthy men are not searching for perfection. They're not expecting a woman to be flawless. They know life is messy. People make mistakes. Bad days happen. What many men secretly desire is something much simpler. Peace. A woman whose presence makes life feel lighter rather than heavier. A woman who can communicate without creating unnecessary drama. A woman who remains confident without becoming combative. A woman who brings calm strength into difficult moments. Because beauty may catch attention, but peace captures hearts. Long after physical attraction fades into familiarity, peaceful presence remains unforgettable. Now, notice something important. None of the mistakes on this list had anything to do with physical beauty. A woman can be absolutely stunning and still push people away. Another woman can be completely average in appearance and inspire admiration everywhere she goes because of her character, confidence, and emotional maturity. True attraction is never built on perfection. It's built on self-respect, confidence, grace, emotional intelligence, and peace. So tell me in the comments, which of these mistakes do you think women make most often today? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Elegant Standard for more timeless lessons on elegance, confidence, and feminine presence. Until next time, stay elegant.